All right, everyone. I am doing a live moment just to cover some information about mental health tonight. I am a little behind going live, but I wanted to make sure I still fulfill my commitment to make sure I got on to send a message tonight about some information. I am a school counselor for those who do not know, and as a school counselor in a middle school, I encounter lots of teenagers and preteens, adolescents going through just issues that they internalize. And I have been seeing an uptick in crisis being like people who, meaning people want to end their lives. So there are lots of kids people brush off and say, "Oh, you ain't going through nothing. You're not experiencing any stress." But kids actually are experiencing stress, and so I just thought I would come on and share for anyone who might need to have the knowledge about how to handle a mental health crisis. Of course, you always want to um, the first thing that I would tell anybody to do in a situation where there is any type of crisis, physical, emergency, whatever, don't panic, right? That's the basic thing in how to deal with something is not to panic, because when you panic, you set off other sort of alarms and emotions, if you will, in the person that causes them to then react to your reaction. You cannot panic in emergency situations. Mental health goes the same way. If somebody is in a situation where they are wanting to hurt themselves, harm themselves, kill themselves, you panicking like, oh my gosh, and just overreacting to it is not going to help them calm down. It's only going to tick their anxiety up even more. And probably then they're going to start feeling guilty and just go through this whole cycle. And so I wanted to come on because this is a very, very, very real issue. I'm encountering lots of parents or caregivers that don't know how to deal with it when I'm having to break news to them that, hey, yeah, baby girl was cutting. She a friend found some scratches on her arm, inquired, and it's cuts, and she was cutting a knife. They don't want to live, and they're always reacting in the wrong way. They sometimes people ask questions like, well, in a kind of aggressive way, because of course as a parent or caregiver you're upset that somebody is coming to you with some information like, what you mean, like they didn't tell you. And so for one, sometimes we get upset because your child didn't tell you that they wanted to hurt themselves. Well, because guess what, the child thinks that they're going to get in trouble, or they're going to get ridiculed, or they're going to get brushed off if they say that they're not happy with something. So what do? They kind of act out in a silent way, and then they may express themselves in a note or saying something to a friend that then is like, nah, something's wrong. And then so a lot of times what I find is that caregivers are reacting because you didn't know the situation. Sometimes there's going to be things that your children are going through that you're not going to know. There's going to be another adult or another person that sort of intercepts the information, but guess what, they're bringing it back to you. So be grateful that it's coming back to you and you're being involved and looped into this whole conversation, because nobody would want anything to happen and you didn't know anything at all. So at least they're bringing it up to you so that you know, like, hey, something is possibly wrong. And so we have to, one, not overreact. Two, we don't want to be aggressive and accuse them of like, why did you tell me? Because they're telling you in that moment. What we really want to get to the crux of when it's happening is what's going on. What are they feeling? Why are they doing it? Why do they feel that way? Not in an aggressive way. What you feel that way for? Why you think that? That's not the way to talk to your kids to find out why they're cutting themselves and why they want to kill themselves. That's not it. We're talking about a crisis. We're talking about they want to end their life. They have considered what would it be like if they wasn't here, and they have actually thought about a plan as to how they would execute that. Whether they have acted on it or not, they thought enough about it. That's a dangerous thing. A lot of times we don't really realize how powerful the mind is and how powerful our emotions are. Especially for a child, they really don't necessarily think through logically all of the things that happen, all the steps that go through. So it's very dangerous for a child to have those thoughts and not logically move through step to step to step to think through, okay, well, if I feel this way, what should I do about it? And I think about that. They thinking, I feel this way. I'm tired of feeling sad. I'm tired of feeling down. I just want to get out of it. and they're reacting to their emotions and thinking of the closest thing that they can do to get out of these situations. And we have to stop acting like, oh, ain't nothing wrong with you, and just letting it move on. We have to stop ignoring the signs of depression of our children being like sad all of a sudden. These things are not normal, and it's stuff that you really, really, really have to address. And as a parent, caregiver, if you're not able to address it, a friend, if you're not able to address it, guess what? You probably aren't the best person to address it. That's when you refer to the professional who can implement some things. If you're a parent, you need to go to the school counselor and social worker and really loop them in and figure out what are some resources and options that you can pursue. They might help you think through some things as far as insurance is concerned, habits, and really help you understand what you could be doing at home to help them feel better. I'll give you an example. I had a situation today. A student was in crisis, and the child is feeling really trapped at home. She lives with the grandmother. The grandmother is very overprotective in a good way. I mean, it's not like she's overbearing, but she really doesn't have friends outside of school. She's not really going out. Baby girl is trapped, and I could see that. So I had to compromise with grandma. Like, well, grandma, what if, spring break is coming up? Is that something she can work towards where she can actually go out over the course of spring break with a friend, maybe to the movies or to the mall, or they can hang out? She needs some socialization. So a lot of times I'm having to educate parents on the developmental level of their child, and then what are some options that they can get a little bit of what they're seeking, because some parents just are not aware. Anyway, back to our conversation on how to deal with the crisis. We don't want to overreact. We don't want to respond in anger about what they are experiencing. And we want to get to the crux of why they're feeling the way they feel. But don't just ask why. You might not be the right person to address this conversation. This can really be in partnership with like a mental health provider. Hopefully, prayerfully, this is in conversation with a mental health provider of some sort. Um, where they're able to ask certain questions to find out, well, what are they willing to do? Because trust and believe, a mental health provider is going to ask them straight on, why do you want to kill yourself? Not in an aggressive way, but just like like as if we having a casual conversation. We're going to keep it even keel. Why do you feel like you want to kill yourself? And we're going to ask them, well, what would you use? And even though that's not a conversation that you might feel like as a parent or a friend you can ask somebody, we're going to ask straightforward conversations, because usually people are willing to give straightforward answers when they're on those situations, because they're in crisis. They really do want help. Um, and they're usually willing to be honest if you give them, if they feel like they're in the environment where they can be a little bit more relaxed and not have to hide it anymore. They're willing to be honest and let you know that, what, this is something I have been feeling about this, or, they're willing to tell us. You just have to create the environment. So I would say for those of you all who might have friends who are experiencing, especially depression, is usually, and sometimes depression is hidden, sometimes depression is wrapped up in anger. Um, for those of y'all who have those types of friends and family members, you definitely want to make sure that they are having regular habits to improve their mood, that they are doing certain things that's going to help improve, and that you do not respond out of your emotions when you find out something. Even if what if a friend tells you that they were hospitalized? You don't need to go asking a million questions about what you was in the hospital for, why you ain't told you was in the hospital. You need to have a casual conversation to help them feel open about sharing what they're struggling with. People who are in suicidal ideation are really, 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 really struggling with. They are fighting their own emotions. They in a fight. It's them against them, and they are in a fight. We don't need to create more of a battle for it to be you against them against them. We need to create a situation where they feel comfortable talking to you about it. And even though it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, you just being somebody to listen so you can refer and pass them to the proper people. I have conversation with kids all the time, and I'm letting them know, hey, you need help. In a very calm way, I'm saying this isn't normal and you need some help. Are you willing to get some help? And that gets them to the next level. What could the next level be? Well, some people don't realize that we do have a national suicide hotline. You can dial 988. It's similar to like 911, but it's 988. That is for mental health. And so you could dial that National Suicide Hotline and get connected in your state, in your area. It could be a crisis unit that may need to come out to do an evaluation with somebody to see how active. Because if somebody is in your home, if somebody is around you and they are literally at that moment wanting to die by suicide, they are wanting to take their own life. They are willing to walk around with a knife, pacing and trying to cut themselves, and you're trying to take a knife away, or you know what I'm saying, end up in a worse situation. You need to involve some people who are trained and equipped to deal with it while you provide support. Okay. Eventually, those people do need to do therapy. You have those people who will try to deny it and say, "Oh, I don't need help. Nothing's wrong with me. It was just this moment. I was just bad in this moment." They still need to go and be evaluated. They still need to go and get help, because people who are in denial are going to try and placate like nothing is wrong. Like it was just that moment. Like I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I was just stressed out at school. I was just stressed out at work. If you were stressed out that much to where you wanted to end your life, like you need help. And sometimes it's just being able to offer that hand to say, I'm not judging you. I want to help you. You can overcome this, and then getting them to the right people and making sure they follow through with that therapy appointment, that intake, that evaluation. I'm not one to recommend medication for people, but you need to get some assistance. You need to get some guidance. And you, as a layperson, are not equipped to deal with somebody who is going through a mental health crisis. You need to pass them off to the next person, but you need to support them. Most people who are going through like a mental health crisis don't feel like they have the support. That's why they're going through the crisis. They don't have the community. They could be in a room full of people and still feel alone by themselves. You've got to be able to provide that type of support to them. And so I am just thought I would come on and share a little bit about my experiences as a mental health provider in a school setting, because I know if it's happening to my teenagers, my early adolescents, it's happening to teenagers, it's happening to young adults. In this age group, mostly teenagers and young adults is the largest age group that does suffer from suicide. And so, in order to help address it and address some of the depression that they're experiencing, a lot of things that I feel like triggered towards it. That's a video for another day. But I wanted to help you all understand that you don't need to overreact when you find out about something. You don't need to react out of anger as to why they didn't tell you and you're finding out in a certain way. Why didn't you know certain things? You need to create an environment, a calm environment where you can talk casually about what's going on and loop in somebody who is a mental health provider as soon as possible, because if you're not equipped to deal with that conversation, it can be traumatic for you on the other end, because now you're dealing with the emotions of it all. And it's a lot for a parent, a caregiver, a friend to take in when they don't really understand the mindset, I would say, or psychology of somebody who is in a crisis. It happens every day, y'all, and we really need to be able to step up our game to be able to address it. So if you see people who are going through depression, you know what? Ask them head on, are they depressed? Ask them head on, do you feel sad all the time? Like how often is it? And it's okay to talk to people about what they're dealing with so that you can refer and provide them with resources they need. It's okay to tell your friends and family like you need help. Not beg them for help, but like telling them that they need help and being straightforward with people, and telling them that you love them enough to make sure that they get help, because this is not okay to be dealing with. So I pray that anybody you're dealing with who does have mental health crisis, like it's real, regardless of what your religion is and what you believe, these things are real. So I just hope and pray that you are able to be guided in those moments. You could take a deep breath. Do another thing before I go off. Do not throw scripture at people. Don't say, "Oh, but God is with you and it's gonna be okay, and to the morning it'll be better." Those things, though they may be helpful for you when you're going through situations, which probably not, it's not helpful for them, because it really seems like you're glossing over their experiences and you don't want to make it seem like you're just moving past what they're feeling and you're really not trying to hear them out. People want to be heard, even if you don't have an answer for them. They want to be heard and they want their feelings to be validated. So don't just throw scriptures or quotes or something as a simple solution to it, because it's not simple in their minds. So we really got to hear people out and take time to befriend others and ask them straight on what's going on and get them to somebody who can help. Don't forget that the suicide hotline is 988, very similar to 911. You can save it in your phone so you have it in case of emergency and you'll always know. And then of course there are other like local numbers that you can dial. I live in Georgia, so we have like the Georgia Crisis Access Line, different things like that that you can always Google and find out locally. But if you do 988, they will get you to somebody locally. So I hope that this information is helpful, that you are able to help friends and family members who are experiencing issues. Unfortunately, sometimes crisis is very real and can happen to anybody. Don't let that moment that they're having feel like it's something that's just going to pass. If they're having those types of thoughts, they need help. Do not try to help them yourself. Get them to a provider. All right, y'all have a great evening and see you next week.